Hey guys, this is Aaron Peterson with The Hollywood Outsider, and as always, you can find new episodes of our show every Thursday at thehollywoodoutsider.com, iTunes, or Stitcher Radio. This, however, is a special edition of our show, as you're about to hear my interview with the filmmakers of Rise of the Fellowship. What is Rise of the Fellowship? Let me tell you. Rise of the Fellowship is a film that follows four modern-day friends as they embark on their own personal quest to save their honor and compete in a Lord of the Rings online gaming competition. The film often alludes to the Lord of the Rings franchise and has been compared to films such as Fanboys and was also the winner of the Gen Con Film Festival, so kind of a big deal. More information on the film is at riseofthefellowship.com, and you can read my review of the film shortly on our website. This is a really good interview. I had a really good time talking to these guys and hearing their experiences of making the film, what they hope you took from it, as well as what it's like paying homage to such a really sacred franchise. So here's my interview with writer and producer Scott Mathias and writer-director Ron Newcomb. I really hope you guys enjoy it. Take a listen. I'm here with Ron Newcomb and Scott Mathias, both producers, writers, and Ron directed Rise of the Fellowship, which is going to be hitting DVD on when, Ron?
December 3rd. Yeah, you'll be able to go on our website, riseofthefellowship.com. We have a bunch of different ways where people could find it and see it, VOD, stream it, the basic modern day way of the way we all watch films now.
Yep, and it's coming out right before The Hobbit, so that's good news. Good news.
Yeah, actually, that was a little bit of a funny story. We've had the film in the can for a year, and so when we finally got distribution, we were trying to get it out right before The Hobbit, the first one. But since we couldn't get over the goal line, we've been waiting for this day. So it's definitely intentional.
That's good news. Well, it makes sense to release it around the same time. I mean, get it when the hype's there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
It's kind of the similar fan base. So, everybody's kind of hyper aware and hypersensitive and everything's going on with The Hobbit. So they're just looking for other versions or things to consume. And yeah, hopefully we'll cater to that market.
Okay, well, the film itself is obviously patterned to reflect Rings fans, our fantasies from here till Middle Earth itself. Randall, Squirrely, Nate, and Stacy kind of set off on their own quest, and they run into a bunch of modern-day parallels to the series itself. So my first question is, you both wrote this film with Christopher Bunn. What made this particular subject something you were so passionate about?
Well, for myself, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I would say I did enjoy the books, but the films really gave me a good visual sense where it got me excited and moved me emotionally and passionately, so much so that I actually, a year after I saw all three of the films, I flew to New Zealand, did the old Middle Earth tour, and ended up getting a Elvish tattoo while in New Zealand.
That's dedication.
Yeah, man, I went all out. And so from that, as independent filmmakers, the first thing that you kind of ask yourself is, what story do we want told and do we want to see? And then what story can we tell? And with those kind of combinations, it seemed like a great, cool way to be able to showcase and wrap the Tolkien story kind of in different fabric and cloth. And I think we've done that. And that's what got me excited about it, is to be able to kind of touch this in a different way. Scott, how about you?
Well, that's what makes us a good team because, like Ron, but unlike Ron, I love the film. Films are great, and since then I've really come to love them. But I was a fan of the book for years and years and years before Peter Jackson films came out. And honestly, I was a little nervous when I heard they were coming out, and a little jealous too, because as a screenwriter, that was always one of my dreams, was to write the Lord of the Rings
I bet.
Movies. And so he beat us to it. Yep. And God bless me, did a great job. And so in one way, this was also an opportunity to kind of, if you want to say, get on the action a little bit and do our piece. And, like Ron said, we really, he came to me with this idea and then we started working on it, and it was something that we loved. And also we just felt that there was an audience out there for it, obviously Lord of the Rings fans. And also this film has gaming in it, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And between those two audiences, we felt like we had some core audiences that we knew how to reach and that we could hit with this film.
Oh, there's going to be, geeks are going to unite. I'm sure.
Yes.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, just like Braveheart, unite us.
Oh, yeah, they're just running around with paint already, just waiting for the release. So when you're plotting the film out, what came first, the entire story structure, or did you have to do it like scene by scene? Because there's several scenes where there's specific metaphors to the Ring series. So, like, for instance, when they're hiding after leaving the car, and then you get the modern-day ring wraith, is searching for him. Do you plot it out by those particular scenes, or did you just write the whole story out and figure out where stuff went?
Scott,
yeah. I was going to say, well, honestly, and it kind of worked out that way. It all kind of came together at once in a way. Basically, Ron came to me with this idea, and then I loved it. We talked about it a little bit. I kind of got his vision, and then I basically went back and wrote an outline just of the film from start to finish. And I'd say probably the film's probably 75% faithful to that original outline. So sometimes I think there's just ideas that just hit you, and this was just a spark, and it just fit real well, and we just knew what we wanted. And obviously we went back. There were a couple scenes in the film that were small scenes that were written during filming because maybe we needed something was missing or something changed. But pretty much it was from the beginning close to what it is now.
Yeah, another cool kind of take on it is you write the film, and then of course when you're filming, it gets done again, and then lastly when you're editing, it gets kind of redone and remastered again. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I love about filmmaking. It's collaborative. So not only did we have, we had a great writing team with Scott and Christopher, but then we also had a great film crew, and then the actors also pull in, and if they can pull off certain things, and you begin to see them. One of the characters, hopefully everybody will come to appreciate, is our Baba Melvin character, and if you haven't seen it yet, he will hit you in several different ways. Very much Tom Bombadil, Elrond, Treebeard, kind of all into that. And yes, we wrote it like that, but the actor Wolf that portrayed that was able to really, really pull it out of it as well. And even, we were all in awe of his ability to do that, and knowing that, wow, people are going to, they're going to see what we were trying to get to. Wolf nailed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he brought it to life. He really did.
Absolutely. I'll get to Wolf a little later because I want to talk about him specifically. But
yeah,
I've seen a lot more independent movies than I'd like to admit because of the podcast and just being a movie lover. And I have to admit, some of the visuals, and honestly, Ron, I really like some of your shots in this. I mean, some really, really interesting angle shots, but especially some of the visuals, because I know you guys weren't working with like Peter Jackson money. So, your budget was obviously less than Lord of the Rings. But some of the shots look very impressive. How difficult was that? I mean, creating that kind of feel of a certain Lord of the Rings scenes as well as making them flow with your story.
Yeah, it definitely, again, kind of going back to the collaborative part. I mean, you're trying to work within your means, financially and everything, but then being such a lover of the films, I've found a fantastic DP, Brian Pennington, and then the crew that we surrounded ourselves with, from our gaffer, Orlando, to all the other people. Really, if you watch the film, it's very subtle, but the film actually progresses from the mundane to more of the fantastical. And then in the gaming sequence, it goes more from the fantastical to the mundane. And that really was brought out in collaboration with a team of people early on. I could list off a ton of people, but primarily one of the major ones that helped contribute to that was Brian Pennington. And he's a huge lover of the films as well. Even our color palette that we chose kind of was, we looked what Peter Jackson chose. And if it worked for us as well, we kind of went in that direction. So the choices itself, we knew what we wanted to do and kind of replicate based upon what the scene kind of represented. And so it was a lot of fun. And also the film also moves a lot less in the beginning. We did a lot of static shots. And then later on, as the film gets, our four hobbits get off into the adventure, into the world, you see a lot more moving shots. And so we really picked and chose our shots. We gave ourselves enough time with scheduling, and yet we had to push it because we were on a time scale. But Brian Pennington was a lot of that. He was a great DP.
It was sincerely, there were a lot of shots very impressive, especially independent films. The independent films don't get enough credit when they actually do inspiring visuals, and so when you see them, you should commend them.
Yeah.
So you guys,
thanks.
Yeah, no problem. You guys actually got permission to use the Lord of the Rings online game in the movie,
man.
which really shocked me. Sincerely,
Yeah.
I thought it would be something like, Billy of the Rings or something like that.
Yeah. Right. We were afraid it was going to be that. Trust me. I mean,
Yep.
when you're first writing it out there, Scott and I wrote, all right, what MMORPG game could we have in here? And we wanted Lord of the Rings Online. That was what we wrote it towards. But there's other games certainly that we reached out to. The big one, obviously, is World of Warcraft. They were one of the big ones owned by Blizzard. And they actually engaged us in conversation and dialogue with it. But Lotro responded pretty quickly. And the way a lot of people say, man, how did you guys do that? Well, what we did was we tried to showcase to them a perspective of how we would use the film, or rather the game in the film, in a unique way. And so we gave them, instead of just kind of begging them, can we please use your game, we tried to afford them an opportunity to be able to showcase the film kind of in a unique way, or the game rather, in our film. And that's what they saw it as, is that we got a hold of the marketing guy and he was like, wow, that's cool. That's great. I see what you guys are going for. I'm going to kind of bring it up the flagpole. It's owned by a company called, or has the rights, called Turbine. And at the time they were an independent company. And so it was a lot smaller in scale. They've since been bought out by Warner Brothers. And so I don't know that we could have, or could do it now like we did back then. But then it's like the stars aligned perfectly. We kind of showed them what we would do uniquely about it. And then they were looking for that kind of unique opportunity. And they pulled out all the stops. They put us on our own server, set us up with these cool characters. It was pretty epic.
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys actually film it at a Lord of the Rings convention, online convention, or you just set that up?
That would be cool, right? If we've actually had people kind of later on say, where is this convention at? Right. Where can I compete? So maybe Lotro needs to do one. No, we actually did our own convention. We set it up ourselves and did it on our own. Yeah.
It was actually in a church. It doesn't look like it, but that was a lot of props and all kinds of things, but it came together.
You actually filmed it in a church?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. My church, in fact, and we just it was funny because of course this is a working church, so like we filmed there. What was it, like Wednesday and Thursday, Scott? And we had to have everything out, by Friday because they had the weekend stuff going on.
They got sermons coming.
Yeah, exactly. They got things happening. Well, we also had a guy, Manny Camacho, out of Florida, who's this guy goes around and he brings gaming consoles all over the U.S., right? And provides them for conventions. Well, he happened to be in our area. So this guy allowed us a ton of consoles just for free, kind of for the love of getting in and helping us out, and really made the convention look a lot bigger on film, which was cool.
Oh yeah, very much so. So I guess going back to what you said just a minute ago, you tried to get World of Warcraft. Was it always going to be Lord of the Rings in terms of the themes of the film, but you were just trying to find an online game that you could base it around? Right,
exactly. So World of Warcraft, it was hard not to know about them. I mean, they have 12 million people on there, and we were thinking, they would be a cool fit. But they were a huge, big infrastructure, big company owned by Blizzard. But Lotro, that is the story. That's the world. Middle Earth is where we were going into. That's the one that we had wrote it for originally. Mm-hmm. That's the one that we wanted to get. And we kind of just laid out, a dozen potential ones that we should go after in case Lotro didn't work out. And then, like you had mentioned, Scott and I even had to kick around the idea of what happens if we don't get anybody. We were going to have to make our own game, and that would have looked pretty interesting.
We'll make our own game, or even shoot a film with gaming elements, but never show the game. You could do, but it just wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah. Well, your main foursome, Justin, Jamie, Cole, and Emma.
Yeah.
What made you guys decide to pick these guys for the film? What made them perfect for the roles?
Well, we pretty much had the saying that if you wanted to audition, you could. So we ended up teaming up with a local small casting company called KPAC Casting, and we auditioned 450 people. And that is rough because not that we saw a bunch of bad actors, it's the opposite. We saw a bunch of great actors. And so you got to narrow down, and it's very difficult to do, to tell people like, hey, sorry, we're going to go with somebody else. But when we saw our four, I mean, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, we did.
There was one change, which was Cole Matson. Originally, when we had wrote the script, it was going to be like a 13-year-old prodigy who was really smart and, hung with older kids because he was in high school at a young age. But Cole was so good and so compelling and just such a great guy personally that we were like, you know what, maybe this is better fit with a character like Cole. And so we ended up kind of readjusting that character a little bit and tweaking it to fit Cole's persona, really. And it was, I think, the right choice.
Definitely.
And Scott, how do you do it in terms of being a producer? What's your involvement versus like Ron's directing, so he's got to decide who the best people for his film are. But you're a producer, and you're like, hey, maybe not. I mean, how does that work with you guys?
Yeah. Well, there was some of that, and definitely there were times where in casting, where we'll call them close calls, where we had to kind of powwow and decide, it's between this person or that person. But also, at a film at this level, I mean, pretty much Ron and I and other people were pretty much involved in everything. But, a lot of what I was involved in obviously was the writing, but I was also involved a lot when we were filming. I was the line producer. So basically that's kind of the business person on set who kind of keeps everything going, makes sure we meet our schedules. I'm the person everybody would come to ask for money. Which mainly my answer was no on independent film. We don't have money. Let's find another way to do that. And so, and then dealing a lot with locations. That was, we can tell you all kinds of stories about locations that fell through at the last minute. We had to change locations. We had to, when you have a film crew like this, and everybody we have was a very good crew, very professional, but it's like carrying around a small army. So you show up, and people at first, they're excited to have you there, but by the end of the day, or if you're there for a few days, they start to get tired of you, because they just do, And so I spent a lot of time behind the scenes, kind of soothing, personalities and things like that to make sure that things ran smoothly. So that's a lot of what I did. And then there's a whole post-production thing that Ron and I were both intimately involved in and seemed to take forever.
I'm sure. What about these guys? They obviously have to have a bond or a fellowship, so to speak, or fellowship. How did you get them to bond? Did you make them go off on vacation together, go camping together? I mean, how do you get those four together?
Well, one of the things that we did was a couple weeks before shooting, of course, we got everybody together and we were going through lines and started to see, okay, this is the location, we're going to block it out. But that's more of like the craft of it all, trying to get them to come together so that they really came off as friends. They're all open, great extroverts anyways, they're actors. So it was pretty easy to get them together. We physically got them together, and then we had them get on the game together as well. And so they went on Lotro and played as well together, kind of as a unit, as a team. And that helped. And then we would encourage them to do things outside. So when we were done, the four of them would go off and have dinner together or go see a movie together. Or they were really consciously aware of their need to break through anything that might be holding them back quickly. So they were real smart about that and kind of made that happen on their own as well.
They're still friends today, so I think it really worked out. And a lot of times on independent film, you don't get a lot of that. So I really commend Ron and them for working ahead of time before, because a lot of times on independent film, you just show up. You show up on set, and you go and do your lines, and there's really no pre-bonding or chemistry or anything like that. So I think it really made a difference in our film.
Yeah.
And Ron, you're in the movie.
Yeah. That was my first love is acting. That's really kind of what got me in. I've been doing acting for quite some time, and which led me into the director's seat. I think, a director is generally either leans more towards the acting side of it or more towards the technical side of it. And so I love directing because I kind of get to do both and get to keep the overall creative vision. But we did actually offer my role, the one that I ended up doing, to another guy that ultimately, unfortunately, had to turn it down. And then so that's one of those moments where I went back to Scott and our other partner, Shane, at the time, and we were like, man, what do we do? And so they really encouraged me to, which was really nice of them, to say, you're sitting there in the audition room, you're reading it, you're doing good with it, you like to do it, you're an actor, you want to do it, just do it.
Yep.
And so
That's
they
right.
kind of helped me push me along to do it. And I'm glad I did. Scott, we kind of say Scott was the writer, which he certainly was. And so me being an actor, to put myself in it was actually, at the end of the day, I wasn't sure, I was hesitant, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do.
Well, and I didn't even realize you were in it until the credits rolled at the very end. And I'm like, oh, so now that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And you played a jerk, really?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I got to play myself. No,
You just see him directing.
Yeah, and again, that does kind of go back to having a great team, because I'm one of those actors where if I'm in front of the camera, it's hard for me to do both. I don't know if I'm Mel Gibson in it yet and can do both like that. So Brian was easily able to step up again and kind of help run the show when I was in front of the camera. So.
Well, hopefully you're comparing yourself to Mel Gibson like 10 years ago.
Yeah, true. Touché, sir.
And I also like how you put your own family in as like commune members. So
yeah.
were they you trying to tell us they're hippies? Is that?
Yes, exactly right. Their desire is they're close to nature.
They weren't actually acting. You just turned the camera on, and there they were in the field.
Right.
It was a family dinner. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, my personal favorite character was Melvin.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm sure you've gotten that a lot, but please tell me that Wolf Cheryl, is it Cheryl or Cheryl?
It's Cheryl.
Cheryl. Okay.
Yeah.
If he is as cool in person as he seems like he's in the movie.
So a lot of people have asked, well, what do you guys got going on next? What are you doing next? And we're doing an epic fantasy Rangers story. And the only thing that I knew starting out was that I wanted to do that genre and that Wolf would be the lead, because he is that cool. Wolf actually teaches acting at a university, so his skill level is so epically good that it brought our other actors up.
Mm-hmm.
On day one, it was the scene where they're in the sunflowers field, and that was day one of shooting. And so everyone's you're looking at each other. All the actors are like, "Man, are we really going to do this? Are you really going to act?" And it was, and they did. The four hobbits did great, but when Wolf became Baba Melvin, everyone knew that we had something unique and fun. He really brought, like I said, all of us up to a different level just on his ability to pull out the character. And he is Baba Melvin. It was great. And he is that cool. He's very, very talented guy, extremely nice, always willing to help. And to all the actors out there, this guy is a true professional. He showed up always on time, and he had to drive many times the furthest away. Never complained, always was ready to go over his lines or do anything else the other actors needed. So, just kind of a heed and take that. He was fantastic. Scott, what do you have to say about our Baba?
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, he like I said, he pulled it off. I mean, we wrote this character and we had an idea and we knew it was going to be a fun character, but then he nailed it, and he was even a little different, than as far as his age and looked and what we originally wrote for that character. But Wolf is Baba Melvin, and as Ron said, yeah, he really is cool, nice guy, and I agree too. Always professional, and he would bring the other people up, And I think some of the best scenes are between him and Justin when they're together. I think between the two of them, and I think a lot of it has to do with Baba, with Wolf and Justin as Randall relating to Baba to Wolf. Those are some of the best scenes I think in the film.
Well, and Justin and Emma both stood out to me especially, but he just, for whatever reason, he's got kind of a mix of Aragorn and Gandalf going on. It's like, I couldn't tell which one he was trying to be, but they were both cool. So, hey.
Yeah, good.
Excellent job.
Good.
Now, you won the Gen Con 2012 Film Festival?
Yeah.
How'd
we
that
did.
feel?
And for us, that's kind of like when it's Sundance, man. When you put together a movie like that and that's your fan base. And we went up against movies that had some, bigger budgets than ours. Mm-hmm. To win it was like, winning Sundance. It was awesome. It was very cool. And Gen Con is, if you've never gone, it's, 40, 50,000 people just geeking out, gaming, and to win something like that in that epic of a setting is definitely a fun way to do it.
Now, are you both gamers? Either one of you?
I am. Yeah. I grew up doing role playing games, D&D. Now I was a jock too, so on the outside I was a jock, like a closet gamer. But now gaming's cool. Geek is in, so I can come out and say yes, I certainly am a gamer. My passions and things and family certainly have taken more of a front seat, but yeah, I love the game. I love doing storytelling in a different, creative way. It's fun.
What about you, Scott?
Yeah, and I did D&D and role playing and all that kind of stuff, and I do some online gaming, but I'm just an occasional gamer. And between, especially the last 5 years or so, between this film and my family and everything, I'd love to spend more time online, but there are other things that are taking priority right now.
I do have one quick question. Has anybody reached out to like the Jacksons or Tolkien family or anything just to showcase your film and see what they think of it?
If you have any connections.
Oh, I don't. No.
Yes. So here's kind of our cool Sir PJ moment is that we use Peter Jackson's name in the film. And so we, as a courtesy, reached out to him and just said, hey, sir, we're using your name in the film. And, we want to know if that's okay. And so they gave us permission, which is really cool. So we gave him a thank you in our film. And so if you go to IMDb and you look up Peter Jackson and scroll all the way to the bottom, you will see our film attached to Peter Jackson through IMDb.
Well,
because of the thank you.
Yeah.
So
that is very cool.
And we sent a copy of the film to him as well. And we did get a response back from his people. I don't think he's ever seen it. He's so busy with everything. But they did thank us and said he may see it someday. But we did that. And then the other thing was because of working with Lotro, with Lord of the Rings Online and Turbine, we had to get the script cleared by it's Middle Earth Enterprises. They're basically the company that does all the franchising and everything for the Tolkien estate. And that was kind of cool that they cleared it, gave us a thumbs up. They liked the script. That made us feel good. And we were a little nervous, showing your script to somebody like that, but it all worked out.
And so you kind of said what you're doing next, but in terms of this, what do you hope happens with the film? I mean, what can our listeners do basically to support Rise of the Fellowship?
Well, I mean, just you taking the time to interview guys like us is giving voice to independent film and really putting the time where you say that you're passionate about. And so we appreciate you doing that because that's the only way true independent film is going to stay alive is opportunities like this. But certainly everyone knows that every weekend when movies come out, you vote by the mighty dollar. And when films do well, they stick around and they get a second life. And when they don't, they go away. So certainly getting online and supporting the film by watching it. I mean, hopefully it's family friendly that you'll enjoy it. But then also films need ambassadors. They need people to say, hey, check out this film. So kind of help and spread the word through social networking. And, on our website, riseofthefellowship.com, you'll see all the ways that you can stream it. You can buy the DVD, but then you can also hop on and like our Facebook page and share it and let people know about it. We've got the trailer online. Got a couple different behind-the-scenes videos and stuff that you can check out, and that's something that you can get on the DVD that you won't get many other places. Is a lot of our behind-the-scenes stuff. So, getting out and supporting it by voting, if you will, is definitely important. And as a filmmaker, as an artist, when you're putting yourself out there, December 3rd is a big day for us. I'm already a nervous wreck, and we're not even a week out. So I'm really hoping that, people do take the time and I think once they taste it, they'll enjoy it. Scott, what do you say?
I say that watch the film, say a good word about it, and tell others about it. Those are really the three things. Ultimately you make something like this. What do you make it for? For people to watch it. So we hope people watch it. We hope they enjoy it. And that's really, that's the most we can ask for.
And we're kind of big, especially on this show. We love movies, and we also love why people get into movies. So both of you got into this business for a specific reason. tell me why you got into, Scott, writing, producing, and Ron acting and directing.
Well, I've been writing for a long time, and for years I was mainly a prose writer, short story writer, things like that. And actually in grad school a few years ago, I just took screenwriting as an elective, and I loved it. It was just a different way of telling a story. And ultimately about me, it's about telling stories. I love to tell stories. I want to tell stories. And this was just an incredible way, just kind of this new world opened up. And so then for years, I wrote scripts, shopping around Hollywood. I can tell you a bunch of crazy stories about that. And there were a few times where you think your ship has come in and then things fall apart. That is very common. And so, and finally I decided, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to just be a filmmaker, not just a writer, but a filmmaker. And met Ron, and actually was talking with some other people about making a film before this, but then Ron and I hit it off, and, that's what we said. Hey, what does Hollywood want? I mean, they want a product. Ultimately they'd love for you to take the risk, which we did, and then for things to work out great, and then to distribute the film and everybody be happy. So, really, I'm in this to tell stories and hope to continue to do that either through films or books or other ways.
Yeah, through me, I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I was watching this old black and white film with my parents, my brothers, and at the end of it, it was a really emotional film. I just started to bawl. I ran over to my mom, and, she hugged me, but what hit me is the emotional impact the movie was able to move me in. And it was that emotional drawing that really led me to understand and know at a young age that movies were powerful. And then watching it as a young guy, watching films, saying, I think I could do that. And so getting into acting and kind of getting some validation along the way, the people saying, you're good. That this is good. It's something that you could do. And encouraging me led me further into it. And, it was those two things that kind of got me into it initially. But then once filmmaking started to become more of an even playing field, I'll say, with the digital medium opening up and independent film being more acceptable, then I started to believe that I could do this on my own, that we could do it. And so it was right about that time I started this group and met Scott, and Scott kind of had the same passions.
Yep.
And you need an army to do a film. You
Sure.
can't do it alone. So when you find other people that are like that and get just as excited, it excites you and reassures you. And then we said, you know what, we're going to pull the trigger on it. It's funny when you first tell people, hey, we're going to go do a movie. Everyone's thinking like you're going to pull out a handy cam and run around the back of the park with like a cape on, and that's going to be your movie you're recording. Even my parents were a little bit like that. And so when you finally go and do it though, and they see this, like Scott described, this army show up and they're professional, and you're serious about it. My dad, though early on he thought, well, this will be interesting. By the end of it, my dad was running craft services and helping out and pulling cables, and he knew that I was serious about it. And so it got him excited about it. And I think that kind of it happened with the whole crew, the whole cast and crew, is that we knew early on we had something special. I mean, seeing our four hobbits become the hobbits, and Bond, and then seeing Wolf, and then seeing some of the dailies that Brian was able to capture, you knew you had something special. So I don't want to let that die. Production, although it's one of the most difficult times for 30 days, you work like crazy, you'll know if you're a filmmaker or not.
It's a lot of fun. Yep.
I've never been more energized. It was epically awesome. Production is difficult and yet exhilarating. I think if it pulls you down, filmmaking is not for you. You need to get out. But if it can excite you, then man, that's your sweet spot. So.
And I don't know how many people have seen the film or seen parts or seen the trailer, and then they told Ron and I, "Oh, this is a real movie,"
Yeah.
So actually, that's a nice word of praise, I guess, because and we're like, yeah, this is what we set out to do all along.
Well, I as I watched the screener, I really had no idea what to expect because the trailer is very short, and it's very just clip, 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 clip. So I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Independent movies are the hardest because a lot of times if you don't have money, it looks like it was filmed in somebody's backyard.
Right.
Yours doesn't, so that should be a compliment right there. And like I said, a lot of the visuals are very just excellent, honestly, sincerely. So
thank you.
I hope everybody does check it out. Before we go, you were talking about locales. Tell us one funny locale story. You guys can choose. I don't care.
A funny locale story. What do you think, Ron?
I easily it comes to mind. We're literally shooting in a park. And I have to focus on directing and getting stuff done that day. Scott has the burden of focusing on. He doesn't really get to play. Scott's always forward thinking. He gets.
I was rarely on set. Let's put it that way.
He was having to run around and do stuff. So we get a cancellation at 5 p.m. or something for our next day's shoot.
Yeah. What happened was, we got it. We had a big shoot coming up, and we got a cancellation. We didn't have a place to shoot, and that's one of the big things in independent film is, I mean, you already got a schedule, and you got to keep the cameras rolling, and if you don't, you've kind of failed. And so here it comes around lunchtime, actually, and the next day I don't know where we're going to shoot. So I get in the car, and we need like a park to shoot in. So I start driving around. I think I drove about 150 miles that afternoon, driving around to different parks, basically going there with my hat in my hand, saying, "Hey, I'm a local independent filmmaker, yada yada yada. Could we shoot your part? And by the way, we need to be here tomorrow." Got turned down a lot, so I finally went to a state park near us, and it was about 5 p.m. That's why Ron's saying that. And it's this is in the summer in August, and so I go in, I talk to the rangers, and they're like, "That sounds good, but you need to talk to the state office in Richmond." So I'm like, "Okay, what's the phone number?" So I call them up. Get a voicemail from the first one, basically saying the guy's on vacation, but could you contact this other person? I go to that number, I get the same thing, so I'm starting to freak out. But then somebody picks up the phone, and I kind of say, "Here, I'm a filmmaker, yada yada yada," and she says, "Well, wait a minute, let me go upstairs and check." So I basically hang up the phone, and I'm driving around the park waiting for her to call, and she calls back about 10 minutes later and say, "You guys can do it." So I run back to the office and set it all up, and then I'm able to go back. It's like at 5:30 and say, "Here's where we're going to be tomorrow at 8 a.m., guys." And so that was nerve wracking, but also kind of exciting too. And obviously, when you pull it off, you feel really great.
I bet it wasn't exciting if they would have went the other way.
Yeah,
it would not have been. I don't know what we would have done. I guess we would have had a day off, which in one way is nice, but in another way it would have totally thrown our schedule off. And so, a lot of things like that, though, they worked out, but you had to keep at it. Like Ron said, long hours in production, but it was fun and crazy at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of like a film, The One Ring, Gandalf tells Frodo, the One Ring wants to be found. Mm-hmm. A film is completely just the opposite. A film does not want to be made. It will fight you every step of the way. You have to pull it into existence. And it resists you the whole time in various forms. We have a gazillion stories that we could talk about. But, we're gratefully that we had a great team that helped us pull it into existence. And now we hope you guys will support it and enjoy it.
And you guys are being also pretty much endorsed by OneRing.net. Okay.
Yeah, they've been great. There's plenty of fan communities. Middle Earth Network has embraced it. The One Ring, I mean, they're kind of the coup de grace out there for Lord of the Rings style content. And a couple of them, they actually invited us to Dragon Con, and we got to screen it there with some cool fans. So if you've never been to Dragon Con, that is a great epic place to go.
I was supposed to go last year, and it fell through at the last minute. So
yeah, you definitely have to go. Dragon Con is really catered towards the attendee, so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, One Ring has given us some shouts out, as have some other people. So yeah, it's been good.
Wow, that's great news, guys. And it is coming out December 3rd. It's hitting everything, and it's at riseofthefellowship.com. Make sure you go there. You can find every link you want, whatever medium you watch your movies on, you can find it there. So be sure to check it out. Scott Matthias, thanks for coming here.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you joining us. Ron Newcomb, thank you as well, sir.
Yeah, Aaron. Once again, thanks for having us and giving us the opportunity to give us a voice. So thanks.
Well, absolutely. And everybody listening, go check it out. I wouldn't tell you it was worth checking out if it wasn't. Trust me, they listen. They know I wouldn't. So be sure to check out Fellowship, Rise of the Fellowship. It's going to be December 3rd, And thanks again, guys, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And once again, I want to thank Ron and Scott for joining us. That was very nice of them to take time out of their schedule so they could actually talk to you about their movie, what it means to them, and hopefully entice you to go check it out. So be sure to do that. Again, riseofthefellowship.com is their website. And once again, The Hollywood Outsider will have a brand new episode every Thursday as always. So come back on Thursday, thehollywoodoutsiders.com. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, anywhere else you can get an RSS feed. As always, glad you listened to the show. Hope you enjoyed it. And remember, the next time you go to a theater, buy popcorn.